Hello, this is Chuck Ridgway, Automation Technology Manager at Horner. Thanks for joining us for another Tuesday live stream. Well, we're plowing through our OCS360 series. Here's today's topic: dashboard development in OCS360. Okay, so last week we told you about a lot of the great security features that are built into OCS360 to get you comfortable with the service from a security standpoint. Today is very much a how-to video, as we're going to go through dashboards, which are one of the core features of OCS360. And here's how we're going to break down today's topic. We're going to start with a one-slide review of OCS360. Get everybody up to speed, but quickly. And then we've got one slide each on what are dashboards and what are widgets. And then we're going to get right into the demonstration. So we think you're going to get a lot out of today's topic. So once again, let's bring in my colleague, Don Clutterbuck, who's been joining me for this entire series. How are we doing today, Don?
Great. Fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing great. You're looking good. Looking ready to go. All right.
Let's go.
Okay, so today we're talking about dashboards. And dashboards, of course, are one of the core features of OCS360. So what do you think customers are going to be trying to accomplish? What are some of the things they'll be trying to accomplish with their dashboards in OCS360?
Two things. The dashboards are going to give you a 30,000 foot view of whatever your process is, whether it's a wastewater plant or a bakery application like we've shown in our demos. And then you can drill in to get more and more deeper into that specific area, or collect data, of course. OCS360, that was the number one reason, is to collect data, and then be able to use the dashboard widgets to either trend data or do some alarming on it, send email notifications, send SMS messages. But in reality, it's to give you a great feel of what your process is doing at any time of the day.
All right, and that could be real-time data, it could be historic data, a combination of both, all that sort of thing. So I know you've done a lot of work with dashboards, over the past several months, well before customers got them in front of themselves or had a chance to work with them. So what are some of your favorite, I guess, widgets? I think that's what we call the objects that you use to build your dashboards. What are some of the favorite widgets that you've had a chance to use over the past several months?
Yep, and like we said last week, of course, the widgets are very easy to use if you just want to drop them onto the screen, add a variable, and off you go. You could spend minutes, hours with the shades and colors and ticks and so forth. But the number one widget that we're all using in the beta program is the Timeseries chart widget.
Okay.
It will, over time, so however many variables you want over time, and that window is adjustable however you want to do it. So you can look at the last 10 seconds, last minute, last hour, last day, last 6 months. Okay. And one of the things that we really focused on is any widget that's receiving published data, that widget, you can export the data from that widget based on the time frame to a CSV file.
Right.
So instead of downloading all the data all at once, you can download it per widget and get it more detailed just for that object.
Right.
The second most popular one, of course, are control widgets. That's where you can, and we'll talk about that, but this is where you can send a bit down to the controller to either on, off, or some variable. We have a knob control that will allow you to change some sort of integer value or decimal value to control variable frequency drive speed, set points, that sort of thing. And then the one that's really interesting that we get a lot of interest in is the Maps widget. It uses a Google Maps as its base, and the variety of ways of getting the longitude and latitude up there is you can hard code it into the OCS. and send it up as a published variable,
Mhm.
or you can create variables inside of OCS360
Right.
and basically hard code the longitude and latitude, and it gets placed on the map. And then you could also show the most important variables you want to show. So when you hover your mouse over that location,
Mhm.
it will give you the most important variables that you need to see instead of drilling into the dashboard. So we've talked more about maps in beta conversations than we've had almost anything else. So you could have a single location on the
Mhm.
map, or you can drop multiple pins on your map showing the different data across the country, globe, state, whatever. So that one surprised me. That one surprised me.
Yeah, I mean, we have so many of our OEM customers that have machines all over the country. It just makes a
Yep.
lot of sense that they want to be able to quickly take a quick bird's eye view of what's going on at their different machines, hover over one to take a look at the key parameters. That makes a lot of sense. Now, one of the things you
Correct.
mentioned in that last answer was you talked about the fact that most of the data that we're looking at is data that's being published from an OCS to OCS 360, but that
Mhm.
we do have some controls, some widgets that can work with data going back down the other direction. So what are some of the, I guess, applications or uses for those objects, the knob or the switch, when you're, sending data back down to an
Right.
OCS?
Right. Sending data from the OCS to the OCS 360, that's where we publish data from the controller up to the cloud.
Mhm.
If we want to send data from the cloud back down to the controller, actually that's called subscribe data. And
Mhm.
you kind of set it up the same way as your default publish group.
Mhm.
In Cscape, you would create another group that basically says subscribe, and you add the variables that you want to subscribe to.
Mhm.
So up in OCS 360, for example, you have a knob control
Mhm.
that will change a variable called motor speed,
As an
right?
example.
So the knob control would be adjusted, and it will send down the variable or the
Mhm.
value
Mhm.
down to the motor speed variable. Then you could use inside OCS in any program screen, however you want. So again, subscribe data is more of what you're sending from the cloud down to the controller to do just basic operations: start, stop, change a variable, a speed, change a set point,
Mhm.
change an alarm value, that sort of thing. But again, we're subscribing data, and that's set up in the controller.
Yeah, and I would think manual overrides and changes of set points remotely would be the most common use for those. So very cool. Awesome.
Correct.
All right,
Correct.
so let's go ahead. Without further ado, I'm going to let Don go, and then I'm going to dive into dashboards for this week. Thanks again for joining me this week, Don.
Sure thing, Chuck. Have a great day.
You too. Let's dive right in with our one slide review of OCS 360. So OCS 360 is a new cloud service from Horner, making it as easy as possible to push data from Horner controllers in the field to the OCS 360 cloud. And to do that, we use a special free version of MQTT that's built into Canvas as well as Prime to push that data in the form of variables to OCS 360. Now, once the data is up at OCS 360, what can you do with it? Well, there's data recording going on in the background for up to 5 years, depending on the plan you choose. You can do dashboarding, which is our topic for today. You can do remote alarm annunciation and notifications over email and SMS text messages. So it's a very functional service, and it's going to get even more functional as time goes on. And remember, OCS 360 is free for the first 90 days. So after you sign up, you have plenty of time to use the unit in its full functional version to check out and see if it's right for you. Now today's topic. What are dashboards? Dashboards, very simply, are customer pages created in OCS 360 that allow customers to monitor their applications. And the monitoring could be of historical data, real-time data, any combination of the two. It could be primarily and will be primarily data that's being pushed or published by the OCS up to OCS360, but there can also be some data going back down the other direction, like Don and I talked about, subscribed data as far as the OCS is concerned, for things like manual overrides and set point adjustment and those sorts of things. Now, a typical application is going to involve a number of dashboards, usually not just one. Usually there will be several, could be a lot in some cases, all right? And to build dashboards, you use objects called widgets, okay? And we're going to talk about those in a second. And once again, today we're all focused on creating dashboards and using those widgets. And what are the widgets? Well, they're the building block objects of your dashboards, okay? And OCS360 comes with dozens of widgets available for you to use, and they're organized into what's called bundles. And there are bundles for charts and tables and gauges and maps and a whole bunch more. And when you choose a widget and place it on a dashboard, typically you're going to need to tie it to data coming from the OCS. That's the typical process. So how do you specify that? Well, for your widget, you're going to specify the device where the data is coming from. That's typically going to be an OCS. And you're going to tie it to one or more data keys or variables. Okay, so that's what's involved with building dashboards, selecting the widget, assign it to the OCS and the data variable that you're interested in, and away you go. Okay, so that's enough slides for today. We're just going to dive right into demonstrations. Let's start out our demonstration by taking a look at what's going on the machine side of things. Okay, so I've got a prime OCS that is simulating a machine, and I have a number of variables, obviously, in the application. Of course, this is a simulated machine, so I'm doing my best to make it look semi-real world here. Okay, so we have a number of variables that we're displaying on the screen here, and this is the main screen, and then we also have a secondary screen where we are showing off the OCS360 status, so we can keep an eye on things and make sure things are working. And then I've just conveniently summarized the data that's being produced by the OCS to OCS360 and the data that's being consumed there at the bottom left. All right, so that's what's going on screen-wise. Let's take a look at the OCS360 configuration. Well, actually, before we do that, let's take a look at our program variable list. Okay, and I'm going to pull this up a little bit here. And I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so we can see it a little bit easier. Let's start in our global variable group. I'm going to scroll down here until we get to some variables here. So we've got pressure, temperature, rosin level, hardener level. This is an epoxy making machine after all, at least a simulated one. And for these four variables here, we have checked the check mark for OCS360. So that basically adds it to our default group of published data that goes out once a minute. And then if we go back up here and close the global variable group and go to our retained variable group, you can see we also have some retained variables that are going to OCS360 as well. And again, this checkbox is one of the things that makes OCS360 really easy to use. All right, let me close that down. Now let's go take a look at our OCS360 configuration, which you can find under networking, under the OCS360 area here. And here is our default group. This is where those variables just show up and are listed when we check that checkbox. And then I also have a group called subscribe, and I named it subscribe. I mean, it's a subscribe type group is the key thing. You can name it whatever you want. And this is where I added the two pieces, the two variables that ultimately are coming back the other direction as well. The machine on Boolean, which basically gives the ability remotely for me to override the machine being on. And the temperature set point is another variable that I can override remotely. Okay, so that's what's going on in the OCS360 configuration. That's basically it. Now, this is a common status setup that I've used for my demos so far with OCS360, and this demo program and others are available online for you to start from if you choose, because that's already broken down. So that's what's happening on the Cscape side of things. Now if we look at our application on the bench, you can see the main screen here with the actual data filled in. And I've got a jump button here to that status screen, and everything looks good there. You will notice in the right-hand side, I have yet to have any subscribed data. The subscribed count is 0. So that indicates nothing in my OCS360 configuration online is dealing with subscribed data yet, but that's what we're going to set up as part of our dashboard demonstrations today. Now let's fire up OCS360. I've navigated to OCS360.cloud. We're verifying I'm a human, and I'm logged in. All right, so this is what things are looking like on my main screen here, my home screen in OCS360. Let's take a look at my devices. All right, there we go. So we've got our Epoxy-matic, which I have previously added in the last video. Okay, that's its MAC address. That's what basically identifies it, different from any other OCS. And then if I want to take a look at the data, the latest telemetry, okay, there it is. Okay, so that's the latest set of variables that have been effectively pushed from the OCS as a publisher to OCS 360. All right, so now we know we're getting good data. We know we've got our OCS up here and online, it's active, and we can start building dashboards. Now let's navigate to dashboards. As you can see, I have not created any dashboards yet. So what we're going to do during today's program is I'm just going to start working with dashboards, adding widgets, just to give you the flavor for how some of these work. It's really pretty straightforward, but let's just go ahead and muddle on through here. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is create a new dashboard. I'm going to do that with the plus button here, create new dashboard. I need to give it a name. For this one, let's just call it gauges. Okay. All right, and you can put a description in if you like. You can also put a background image in there if you'd like. All right, and I'll just hit add for now. Okay, and now it's ready for me to add a new widget. So I'm going to go ahead, and there's a couple different ways I can do that. I'm going to hit the add new widget button there, and then it brings up all of these bundles of widgets. And you can think of bundles as just different classifications or groups of widgets. Let's go ahead and add a gauge. Okay, let's go ahead and add this one. Let's say it's called a speed gauge. Let's add that one. All right. First thing it's going to do is ask me to tie it to a device. So I click here. The Epoxy-matic is the only device in my system currently, OCS of course. And then most widgets have like a default data key sitting here. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to delete that default data key and add one of your actual variables that are being pushed to OCS 360 instead. So let's say that we're going to do pressure here. All right. And we can give the gauge a title. Okay, let's give it a title. I'm going to call this pressure. Under units, okay, I'm going to match what makes sense. And I'm just, instead of hunting through the list, I'm just going to start typing in what I'm looking for. And look at that, it showed right up there. Excellent, okay? And then, okay, so that's the basics of how it looks. We can go back and clean it up later. Okay, I'm going to hit add. All right. Now, what I haven't done is I haven't tied it to an actual variable that's being pushed to the OCS 360. So, actually, I have tied it to a variable. Duh, there it is, pressure right there. Okay, so that's looking good. Now, I can go back in and clean this stuff up if I'd like. But let's say that for the sake of argument, everything looks good. So I've got my min and my max. I can change my shading. That all looks good. I don't see a title. Oh, there it is. There's the title pressure right there. So I've just added a pressure gauge quite simply, actually. As you can see, it's really pretty straightforward. All right. So let's go ahead and close this down. All right. Now we need to make sure we hit save. Okay. That's important that we hit save. And let's add one more gauge. All right. And we'll do that by going into edit mode first and then adding a widget. Now, when we first added the dashboard, we were kind of automatically in the edit mode, if you will. All right, so now I'm going to add a different type of gauge. This one, again, tied to the same device, Epoxymatic, getting rid of the default data key, adding one coming from my machine, which is what I want. Temperature as a title is fine. All right, let's just go ahead and leave things alone for now and see how the default looks. Okay, so it looks like I need to probably clean up my range a little bit because it's showing me in the red. Obviously, I don't want that to be the case. Let's go ahead and go back in and edit the widget. And this time, we're going to go from, let's say, 0 to 100. And then, let's see, about the only thing that I may need to clean up now is the colors for the alarming, you know, these sort of colors. But for now, let's just go ahead and leave this alone. All right, and call this good enough for now. All right, very good. Now, the other thing we'll probably want to do, if we want to clean up this appearance a little bit here, is we'll probably want to change our range so that these numbers come out even. So let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll call it good enough for, now. Oops, let's go back into edit mode. All right, and on the range, let's say, let's go up to, I think if I bump up the range to, let's say 110, no, that still isn't quite doing it. That's my preview. Okay, so that's kind of cool. All right. Let's go back and let's change this, let's say to 120 and see if, yeah, there we go. So I've now set my range so that I'm getting nice, even numbers on my tick marks here. And the only thing left to do really would be to clean up the shading here, because that shading is not really what I'm looking for at this stage. So I'll apply that. And then let's go ahead and clean up these scale colors. Okay, so if I click under scale colors, all right, there we go. So I'm going to say, let's get rid of all the scale colors, and let's say everything from 50 to 70, all right, is blue. Okay, 50 to 70. Actually, yeah, let's say 50 to 70 is blue. Let's get rid of that one, that one, that one, that one, and let's just simplify this thing down to where red is everything, let's say, from 90 to 120. Okay, now obviously you can kind of figure this stuff out on most of these widgets without me leading you through it. All right, there we go. Let's go with that. Okay, so, you know, whether you can argue with me that blue means it's too cold and I probably should move this down into here somewhere, but that's okay. You get the idea of how these actually work. And then now that we're done with that, okay, everything's looking good here, and we can always make sure that when we're done, we hit save. Next, let's create another dashboard. So again, with the way I'm showing you today is I'm kind of putting different types of devices on different dashboards. You certainly don't need to do that. So I'm hitting add dashboard, create new dashboard. I'm going to call this process history. Again, I could put a description here. And even a graphic in the background. I'm not going to do that. It moves me to this screen. I can then hit this or that, add new widget button. And let's go ahead and add a time series chart. That's a really important chart here. So I clicked in the first group of widgets, and I'm going to select time series line chart. Okay. I'm going to use an advanced one. Okay, because there's some extra options I want to show you that are pretty important. So I'm using an advanced one. Also, I'm going to select use widget time window so I can customize the time window the way I want it. Okay. All right. So again, select my device, which in this case is my OCS. Get rid of the default data, put mine in. I'm going to put in the temperature. Okay. I'm going to put in the temperature set point, and I'm going to put in the pressure. Okay. And that's enough. Okay. As far as I'm concerned. All right. So now let's go to the widget card. The next thing I want to show you is I'm going to enable widget data export. Why am I doing this? It's at the bottom of the widget card here. It's so that I have the ability, if I want, to click a button on this chart when I'm done, anytime I want, and it will download a CSV file, which of course is a spreadsheet style file with all my historical data in it. So it's another way that I can take a look at data quickly and easily. Okay, so we're done with the widget card. Let's go back to data and scroll up. Now I want to go in and change my time window. Okay, so let's, instead of looking at the last 1 minute worth of data, let's look at the next, let's look at the last 1 day worth of data. Okay, we'll leave everything else the same. Hit update. All right, and I think this is a good place to start. Let's see how things look once I hit add. Okay, and I'm going to make it larger. I can make it whatever size I want. And as you can see, I'm starting to get data. Okay, so the data as it's coming in, it's being updated. All right, and I've got the latest data showing here, which is pretty convenient. Let's go ahead and make sure we hit save. We've always got to make sure we hit save. All right, so everything looks good. So this is the real-time data from the last day. And obviously, as time goes on, we're going to see more real-looking data here because I've only just started pushing data from the OCS somewhat recently. So you can see my set point wasn't even pushed the first time until, a little while ago. All right, and then I was telling you, you can download data if you want from this chart. This is the export widget data button right here. Okay, so this is a time series data chart, time series line chart. Really nice way of looking at process data. It's a trend type graph, and it's a great way of also being able to quickly and easily download your data from the chart just very simply. Next, let's take a look at creating another dashboard. All right, this one I want to use to display tank level. So I'm just going to call this one tanks. Again, I could fill in description and have a background image and all that sort of thing. All right, I'm going to go ahead and go to liquid level here. Pick a cylindrical style tank. Select my device, of course, get rid of the default data key, add in my rosin level, which is what I'm looking for here. Change the title to rosin level. All right, and then I'm going to leave everything else the same because my source units is %, and that's what I want. Okay, and let's make the one thing I am going to change is under tank color, no, under the liquid color, let me click on this here. And I'm going to make this a constant. Okay, so the liquid's always the same color regardless of if it's high, medium, or low. You could choose, hey, let's change colors based on level. All right, and then I'll adjust the size here. And then I'm going to do another quick one where the only real difference is a different variable and a different color. So I'll add another widget. Again, go to my liquid level, select my vertical cylindrical tank, select my device, get rid of the default, put my hardener level in, which is the variable I want, change this title to match what I want. Oops, type it in properly though. All right. And then we're going to go down to liquid color, change it to a constant, but we're going to change the color of that constant so that it's a different color for a different liquid. Hit different color, I selected a different color, hit the select button, hit the apply button, hit the add button. And now I'm going to move it where I want it and size it the way I want it to be sized approximately. Okay, so really straightforward stuff. As you can see, just play with this, you know. You've got all these different widgets that you can add, okay? And I'm sure you're going to be able to find something that represents what you're looking to do here with one of these widgets. Okay, let's not forget to save before we leave. And the next thing we're going to show you is a Google Maps widget. Now, the Google Maps widget actually depends on latitude and longitude attributes that are not there by default. So I've navigated to my device list here. I'm clicking on my device that I want to show on Google Maps. I'm going to go to Attributes, and I'm going to switch from Client Attributes to Server Attributes. And I need to add a latitude and longitude attribute to my list of attributes here. So I'm going to hit the plus button, type in latitude. Okay, it's going to be a value type of double precision. And then I need to paste in the latitude. Now, on my phone, I have actually found the latitude and longitude I'm looking for. Oops, that wasn't the pasting I wanted to do there. Let me go ahead and copy that and hit paste. There we go. So I've added the latitude. Now I need to similarly add the longitude. Okay, and again, double precision. This time I need, on my phone, and you can't see what I'm doing here, but I need to select and copy the longitude from my phone, which I did. Hit paste and hit add. Okay, so now I've added latitude and longitude as attributes. Okay, so that's done. So let's get out of here, and now let's go back to dashboards. Let's add a new dashboard, and we're going to call it sitemap. Okay. All right, I'll add a new widget. I'll go to the Maps area, I'm going to select Google Maps in this case. All right, and again, I want to select my Epoxymatic, which is my device. Okay, and then under data keys, okay, I want latitude and longitude. Okay, now if I actually want to have some data variables that show up that I can just look at on the site, I could add those as well. And then they would show up on the marker. When I clicked on the marker, I would see the latest values of those particular variables. But for now, I'll just leave it as latitude and longitude and hit add. Okay, and then there we go. Okay, so it's showing the location. I hit save. All right, and it should be filling in with more detailed information soon. Actually, for the type of map I want to show, this I believe is a road map. I don't want to show a road map. Let's go back into edit mode and find a different appearance. So instead of, there you go, instead of road map, let's go with satellite map. That's really what I'm looking for here. And now we should get pretty much what I'm looking for. There we go. So now we're getting a satellite view of the map. We can, zoom in and zoom out as we choose. And again, let's not forget to save. All right, the last thing I'm going to show you is how to use control widgets that can send data back to the OCS for things like overrides, as well as set point changes and those sorts of things. So I'm going to go back to dashboards. Instead of creating a new dashboard this time, I'm going to go ahead and just add these control objects to an existing dashboard. I'll do it with the gauges one here. All right, so I'm going to go into edit mode. All right, and I'm going to add widget. And this time I'm going to select the bundle of control widgets. And let me select a round switch. Okay. My target device is, of course, my OCS, which is called Epoxymatic. Let's go to the Appearance tab. All right, and down here, this is the list of available subscribed tags. Okay, these are ones that are in the subscribed group in the OCS. And the one I want is actually the first one, Machine On. And I'm going to make the title of this switch Machine On. Okay, and I will just hit Add. All right, and it's, by default, it's small. Want it to be bigger than that, obviously. Let's make it larger. Okay, and then we have a Machine On control. It doesn't want to be the same size I want to make it. There we go. Okay, so we've got a Machine On control now that we should be able to use to turn the machine on and off. Now, what's really impressive, to me at least, is how fast the data can go, from here, which is obviously on the web, and then down to the OCS. Okay, and this is not happening locally. This isn't happening between my computer and the OCS. This is going from my computer up to the OCS360 cloud, and from the OCS360 cloud down to the OCS controller. So let's take a look at our bench, what's going on in the bench. Okay, you can see now I'm getting subscribe data. Okay, I've got subscribe count there. And the reason it's not 0, but it's 13 is because I've been doing some tests. But anyway, so you can see that my machine is on. Down there, that green button is on. Now, if I go back to my computer and hit off and immediately go to the OCS, it's that fast. Okay, it's crazy how fast it can be. Literally a second or two or even less, potentially. Very impressive. Okay, so that was an on-off control object. So let's go ahead and turn it back on again. Yep, we're already on. Takes almost no time at all. All right, now let's add one more control object here. So I'm going to go back into edit mode, add widget, back to the control widgets bundle. And this time I'm going to select the knob control. Okay, and my alias, of course, is my target device is my Epoxymatic. Go under Appearance, go down here to the list of subscribed tags. I want my temp set point, set my initial value, which I'm going to set it to something that makes sense for my machine. Okay, and 0 to 100, let's leave that alone. That should be okay. Well, let's make it 0 to 150. Why not? Okay, so we've changed that. We don't want the title to be knob control. Let's make the title temperature, or just let's call it temp set point. All right, and let's see how that does by default. Okay, it's putting it down here. I want to, let's move it to the middle and make it a little bit larger. Okay, there we go, temp set point. And now if I hit save, I can modify the set point. Okay, so I've made it now 48. Let's check it on our unit. Sure enough, my temperature set point has changed down to 48. Let's go back to here, change it back up to something which was really what we're looking for. All right, verify that it has taken already, and it has. So again, I think you'll be very impressed with the update rate for sending data back down to an OCS via subscribed data from the OCS's standpoint. Okay, so hopefully this has been a good set of demos for you. And of course, those of you watching on replay, the beauty of it is you can skip forward and backwards and you don't have to listen to all my talking as I add every single object. Okay, so that wraps up the demonstration, at least for the dashboarding. Well, that does it for our topic for today. I would encourage you to try out OCS 360 and take advantage of our 90-day free trial. In order to do that, you're going to need Cscape 10.1, which you can download from our website. You'll need firmware version 17.1 for either a Canvas or XL Prime unit. And of course, you'll need to sign up for an OCS 360 subscription. Now, we have 3 different plans: Silver, Gold, and Platinum, and they primarily vary in the amount of data that each controller can push to the cloud per minute. In the case of Silver, it's 250 variables per minute. Gold, it's 500 variables per minute. And Platinum is 1,000 variables per minute. And the cost of OCS 360 is per controller per year. And for the trial period, you can sign up for as many as 10 OCS controllers pushing data to the cloud. And then after 90 days, you can make your decision. Is OCS 360 what it's cracked up to be? And is it going to work for me? If yes, you just keep right on going and your credit card will be charged. And if it isn't working for you the way you'd like, you can always just desubscribe at that point with no cost to you. Okay, don't forget about training. We've got plenty of training classes left in 2025, with our next course being an advanced course the week of March 11th. Also, we've got multiple trade shows coming up. This week, as we speak, actually, I'm at the WET show in Indianapolis. Of course, I pre-recorded this video. But we've got other shows as well. If you're going to only be able to come to one show this year, I would recommend Automate in Detroit, May 12th through the 15th. You'll get a chance to check out Detroit. Detroit has a reputation from the old days that is not applied these days. Detroit's a wonderful city, and I would recommend you come check out Automate. We'll be there between May 12th and May 15th. Okay, there's lots of ways to interact with Horner Automation online, including our website, our YouTube channel, where we have hundreds of videos like these, as well as on LinkedIn. Okay, February is OCS 360 month. We're working our way through. And what's next month, or next week, I should say? Alarming and notification. So another how-to video for a very practical feature that can really help pay for OCS 360 by allowing you to be notified immediately when things aren't going the way that they should. Okay, so if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, don't hesitate to do so. It doesn't cost a thing. And if you choose notifications when you subscribe, you'll be notified every time we go live or every time we post a new video. All right, until next week, when we're talking about alarming and notifications with OCS 360, let's all get out there, stay warm, and do some good.